It's on. President Trump not sitting back quietly while his former FBI director disparages him to the media and to readers of his new tell-all book, A Higher Loyalty. Comey hurls all kinds of accusations about the president, comparing him to a mob boss who is, quote, unethical and untethered to truth. In a clip just released, he also discusses the infamous dossier.
Did you tell him that the Steele dossier had been financed by his political opponents?
No, I didn't even think I used the term Steele dossier. I just talked about additional material.
But did he have a right to know that?
That had been financed by his political opponents? I don't know the answer to that. It wasn't necessary for my goal, which was to alert him that we had this information.
Did you tell him you thought it wasn't true, or you didn't know if it was true or not?
I never said I don't believe it, because I couldn't say one way or another.
Did you believe his denial?
I honestly never thought these words would come out of my mouth, but I don't know whether the current president of the United States was with prostitutes peeing on each other in Moscow in 2013. It's possible, but I don't know.
God bless him. We apologize for that language and content for a second there. All right. Mr. Trump had some words of his own this morning, calling Comey a proven leaker and liar, a weak and untruthful slimeball who was a terrible director of the FBI. He says it was his great honor to fire Comey. Well, Sarah Sanders was just asked about that attack on the former FBI director.
Isn't all of that a bit unbecoming of the presidency of this White House to go after him in such a personal way like that?
I think it.
Slimeball and a liar and a leaker.
I think it's unbecoming for the person that is supposed to be the top law enforcement official in the United States, the person that is supposed to protect the people of this country, to lie and leak classified information, certainly to falsify documents. I didn't encourage Jim Comey to go out and do a PR campaign. Congress has asked Jim Comey to come and testify multiple times, of which he's denied being able to do, yet he found time to sit down with George Stephanopoulos for 5 hours.
Okay, so obviously some rough stuff there in terms of going back and forth. People thought this book was going to be quite explosive. You saw this start out this morning with the president tweeting. You saw the reaction on social media and online. So we take it around the table and take reflections. Greg.
This isn't Deep Throat. It's more like Gossip Girl. Mm-hmm. I mean, the white half moons under his eyes. I mean, that's a revelation. We notice that every time he's talking because he's usually out on the golf course. Also, I love that part where Comey is in this eternal state of surprise or emotional anguish. He's always conflicted and things are bothering him. And how do I deal with this? And then this happens. The world is always happening to him, right? And he's just the everyman, the Jimmy Stewart. He said that when he met Trump, he said it reminded him of a mafia boss, as if that's a problem. I mean, if that's a problem when you're dealing with North Korea and Putin, I think America might see that as a plus. I'd much rather have, I guess, a mafia boss than a grad student TA. Mm-hmm. So I think that's your revelation. It's a very emotional book. It's a tell-all by an ex.
Oh my God.
Looking forward to one of those.
But it's almost, he's doing through the whole poetry where it's
yes.
circle here. Where are we going here with this, right? Exactly. Dana, what do you think in terms of kind of the rollout for this from a communications perspective?
For who? For the president?
For Comey first.
Well, I think it's textbook. They've been pitching this book ever since he got the advance to write it. Mm-hmm. And so the pre-orders were probably off the charts. He's going to be the darling of the media for the next several days. But I do think when he's talking about the mafia boss, it's not about foreign policy. Mm-hmm. He's talking about the demands for loyalty mm-hmm. from people that work in the government. And that's what Comey says led to his being fired, because he wasn't going to be that person for him.
Right.
I like the whole package. You know, if that's part of being a mafia boss, that's okay.
Okay. All right, well...
That's one point of view.
Each his own.
I mean, but if it was Obama saying that to Holder, then we would have criticized. And we did criticize Holder for not being aggressive and being independent enough and defending the president mm-hmm. when he didn't deserve it.
But I guess it comes down to one fact, that there's a certain kind of person who runs for president. Trump isn't that person, no matter how hard you want him to be. Sure. Mitt Romney or Al Gore.
He became president.
Yes, he did. But he did it without the purity test all politicians know how to fake.
Wow.
Yeah.
He definitely acts like a mob boss. He's not a mob boss, but I think Comey, a little sensitive to pick up with what Greg said. He reminds me of the kid that, like, didn't really have the stomach to confront someone face to face, and then later ran back and scribbled it down in his little diary and wrote it in his little notepad, and now he's just trying to profiteer off of it, like most people try to profit off the president. I think he's really diminished the credibility of the FBI. He botched 2 investigations, the Hillary and the Trump investigation, and he's now really muddying the waters with the Mueller investigation. He's a critical witness in this whole thing. Remember, he's one of the obstruction of justice centerpieces for this, and he's running his mouth and he's writing tell-alls. The way he talks about the dossier is disturbing, too, because this dossier was paid for by Hillary, yet he didn't feel the need to tell the president-elect that his biggest nemesis was the one that paid for it and got it out in front of everything. That seems to be a critical piece of information. I thought George Stephanopoulos did a really nice job asking about that. The whole thing about he's a liar and a leaker, you can't really discount that, too. He testified under oath that he never leaks, yet he leaked this memo to his buddy, and then it hit the press. So he is a liar and a leaker. That's the truth. I don't think this guy, he's supposed to be a lawman. And, you know, he sounds like a schoolgirl, is the bottom line. And he's emotional, he's socially awkward. He can't even be alone with the President of the United States. How weird is that?
Are you serious?
He's a I'm not to diminish schoolgirls. He sounds like a sensitive little child that is not really who I would think would be the leading lawman in the country, the tough guy. You know, willing to take people down. I think you can still say that these days, Dana.
You don't have to be gender specific.
Yes.
Be gender neutral.
Yeah, right.
Jesse is right that Jim Comey is
choir boy. How's that?
not a perfect. Jim Comey is not a perfect advocate for Democrats or Republicans. My party hates what he did to Hillary Clinton and reopening the investigation and not telling the public about the Trump investigation. So I'm not going to defend Jim Comey on his face, but I will say the book fits into a narrative about the president, and the president's response underscores some of what Jim Comey is saying, that he's ego-driven, that the president's ego-driven, he's narcissistic. I mean, the response from the president is like a schoolyard bully, if you want to continue with your analogy here. So, look, what matters most is not this media blitz. It's going to go on for a couple days. It's Bob Mueller. And you're right that Jim Comey is a key player in this, but this book will be interesting and gossipy. What Bob Mueller finds about Jim Comey's role and obstruction is what will matter in the end here.
Look, this is pretty strong language when you think about it. You know, for the former head of the FBI to say the president is unethical and untethered to truth and institutional values, that is making a very strong statement. But then again, he did get fired by him. So the problem is you're going to have a situation like this, Dana, where obviously the relationship between the two was fraught, and maybe the, truth is somewhere.
I think that the book is going to reinforce any preconceived notion that you have about President Trump or Jim Comey. That if you're a Democrat who thinks that he did this for Hillary Clinton, and also remember, I think we didn't even bring this up, that he says that he thought Hillary Clinton was going to win. Therefore, that's why he decided to reveal it, so that she wouldn't look like an illegitimate president. And then, if you're the Trump camp, if you're in the Hillary camp, you think, oh, really? So you did that to us? You hurt us.
That was a favor.
And you protected President Trump, and you didn't tell us that President Trump was under investigation?
Exactly.
I think the Democrats have a lot to be mad about.
But to that point, he wouldn't have done it if it was close. He only did it because he thought it wasn't close, so his decision was purely political.
Right. And he waited a month until they released that to the public. Remember?
And by the way, I think
let's look at the ethics involved here when you think about it, because this is a man who is supposed to be, the head of the FBI, leading the best and brightest. And now we'll look in the aftermath of what has occurred in terms of Comey, the investigations, the collusion that has come out in terms of Strzok and Page and what they were up to. That's really done damage, and this was under his leadership, to the American conception of it. Look, the fine FBI officers, men and women that I have worked with throughout my career, I have the utmost respect. They work very hard for very little money. This is not good or healthy as a country to have this. It seems to me when I read this, like poetry and the eye thing, it seems like Shakespeare in the Park, but, FBI, president, let's get it together.
Well, in the National Review, Jim Garrity wrote a really good piece. And he mentioned a lot of ex-FBI officials who've had long careers there. And people defended James Comey in the beginning. They didn't like the way he was fired by the president. And now they're coming out and they're saying, listen, it's always about Jim Comey. The guy's a celebrity, always wants the spotlight on him. And we gave him the benefit of the doubt in the beginning. But now it's looking like it's an ego play. And they don't like that. They like the focus on the FBI delivering results, not the politicization of the FBI, and unfortunately that's what's happened here.
Well, but there also then he kept the personal notes, and then there was the allegations of leaked information to the New York Times. And when I look at this as a prosecutor, I say, okay, wait a second, what's going on here with respect to these notes? Where are they? Is he going to be compelled to proffer them forward? What's going on? Because to me, that undermines kind of the American sensibility of fairness and appropriateness in terms of what is he doing there? Was it because he was going to write a book or do something? I don't know.
Well, and I think going back to what I said earlier, just because Jim Comey is an imperfect messenger doesn't mean some of the message isn't true.
Fair point.
So I think I agree with everything you just said. He has not, acquitted himself perfectly here. We can't discard everything he's saying because of that.
Yeah, he did make a lot of serious allegations, as you pointed out, about the president being a liar and untethered to the truth and unethical. I haven't read the whole book, but of what's leaked out so far, he has not pointed to one specific thing where the president has outright lied, where the president has done something unethical, except for the smears, comparing him to a mob boss or, saying he intimidated me, which I don't even know what that means. If the FBI director, someone shouldn't intimidate you.
Yeah, there is testimony as well in terms of in front of congressional committees that was called into question. But anyway, it's fascinating to look at and discuss, as a lawyer and where the investigation is going. So let's see.